很多人物是非都是有因果的关系。大家想一想哈，你结婚的那个对象，你老公
Many
啊，你
conflicts
老
between
婆的，
people have
这
causes
个
and
有没有
effects.
点
Think about
有
it.
没有一点点
The
好
person
像
you marry, your husband or
好像和
wife,
过
doesn't
去
seems
有
like
某
there's
种
some
因
kind of
缘？
past connection.
别说结
Not
婚对
just
象
marriage
哈，就是咱
partners,
们普通
even
交朋友，
ordinary
其
friendships.
实也有一种说，
There is actually a
我
saying
看他
that
就是有
I
一种
feel
缘
there is a
分，
bond
我一看
with
那
that
个人
person.
那个
When I
气
see
质，
that
那个
person's
长
auras
相，
and appearance
听他
and
的
hear
声
their
音，我
voice,
就会有好
I
感。
feel a
有这样的人
liking.
吧，是吧？
There are people like that,
只要有
right?
好感的就有反
Where are
感
the
的，对不对？
likings?
所以看这
There
个
is
人，
also
看他走路
dislike,
之后，
right?
听他说话
For
声音，我就
example,
反感。
just by looking at how
有
they
吗？
walk or hearing their
有
voice,
爱就有
I feel disliked,
无爱就
right?
无恨。
When there is love, there is hate.
哎，对，
Without
你现
love,
在恨
no
的人不
hate.
一定都是相爱
Yes,
过的。
the people you hate
有
now
有
are
一个
not
人把你爸
necessarily
打了一
those you
顿，
once
你
loved.
从来没爱过他，
If
你
someone
也
beat
恨
up
他，
your
对不对？
father and you
哎，
never loved that person,
所
you
以我
still
们
hate
在
them,
看是
right?
交朋友也好，我们
So
结
whether
婚
we
的
are
对
making
象也好，
friends or
哎，
choosing a
生
marriage
命之中
partner,
可能是
these
避
are
不开的一
unavoidable
个
social relationships
一
in
个社
life,
会关
aren't
系，
they?
对不对？哎，就是好像发现是
It's
有
like
着
discovering a certain
某
feelings
种
of
叫做
familiarities,
熟悉的感觉，
especially with someone you
尤
like.
其是有好感的人，真
There's
有熟
actually a
悉的感
sense
觉，
of
人
familiarity.
人都会有这种感
Everyone
觉。
experiences
但
these
有没有人
feelings.
没有这种感觉？
Is
就
there
是你这一
anyone
生
who
没见
doesn't
过一
feel
个觉
this?
得看着顺眼的人，
Have you never met someone you feel pleasing to look at?
也有的，
There are such
也有
people. Yes, there
就是
are.
通常特别不自信的，
Usually, it's those who lack
因为不自
confidence
信没得到别人认可，
because
所
they
以我
don't
就
get
不认可任
recognitions
何
from
人。
others.
就
They
是比较
refuse to
偏忧
acknowledge
郁和不
anyone.
自信的人，他会有
These
这
are
样的
often
感
the
觉。
more depressed
你
and
不爱我，
insecure
我也不爱
people.
你，大家都不爱我，我也不爱大家。
They feel
哎，
this way.
这也是
If
合
you
理，
don't
也
love
是一
me,
种因
I
缘。
don't love you.
所以很多
If
的
no
事
one
物，我
loves
觉
me,
得
I
它
don't
都
love
是有着
anyone.
这
This is reasonable.
笼统叫因缘，
It's a kind of
细
cause
分
and
叫因果，
conditions. So many things,
细分叫
I
因果
believe,
关系。
are
有
generally
些小
governed by
事
what
情
we
的，
call cause and
比
conditions.
如和一个人
In
吵这个
detail,
小
it is
架，其
called
实
cause and effect.
前后也没
In
有太
detail,
多
it
的
is
关联
called
的话，这个还没
casual
什么关系。
relationships.
就是和你的人生
Called-
发生的很多
Some are minor
连接
matters.
和碰撞
For
关系的
example,
人，
having a small
都和
quarrel
你之
with
间
someone.
有着
If
某
there isn't
种
much connections
叫
before or
是非
after,
情缘，
then it doesn't really
情不一定
matter.
都是爱哈，
But with
情
many
是
people
一
in your
种
life,
内
those
在
you
的
connect
情
and
绪，
clash with
情
have a
绪的
certain
情。
kind of relationship
所以
with
这个因
you
缘之中就有
called
了是
karmic
叫
ties.
笼统分的话，就
Affections
是
isn't
叫
always
善的
love. Affections is an inner emotions,
还有
the
小善
emotions
缘。
or feelings.
就是你看那
So
个人，
within
尤其
this
是现在
karmic
女生
ties,
多哈，
That's
看那
what
个
is
男生，我
called
觉得
into
很顺
good
眼，
karma and
啊
bad
我就
karma.
想和他
There
接
are
触，但是
also
没有
good
恋爱
affinities.
没有什么其他的关系。
Like when you look at
但是比
someone,
如说他
especially
家
now
是
that
个
they are
卖
many girls,
小东西的小
you
吃
see a
的，
guy
所以
you
就
find
看这个老板
pleasing
娘
to the
顺眼，我就
eyes
喜欢到他
and
家
you
吃
want to
饭，
interact with
合
him.
理吧哈？
But
对，
it's not love,
还有很多人
nor
都已
any
经
other
过了
relationship.
喝咖啡的年龄了，
For
看那个
example,
咖啡店的
if
小哥长得
his
挺
family
顺眼
runs a
的，
small snack
总感
shops
觉和自己去世的狗
and you
很像。
find the owner's wife pleasant, it's just like eating
我
at a
就
place. Makes sense, right?
我不喝咖
Also,
啡，
there are
我
many
在那坐一
people
会儿，
past the age of
也
drinking
让我有一
coffee,
种
but they find the young
那
man
种
at the
得
coffee
到
shops quite
精神
pleasing to the eyes. It's always
安
feel
慰
like
的
my
一种
deceased dog. I don't
看
drink
他们顺
coffee,
眼的感觉。
but I sit there for a while.
对，
It gave me a
所以
kind
里
of
头还
spiritual
有一种
comfort.
就是反面的
Looking
情
at
缘。
something so
这
pleasing
反
to
面
the
的情缘
eyes.
呢，就
Yes.
是
So inside, there's also a kind of
你看
negative
他，你心
attachment.
中有点
This negative attachment is like this.
或者就是对
When you
他
look at him,
总
you
存
feel
有一
a
种
bit of resentment,
疑心、
or
防备。
you always harbor
你见这个
suspicions
人，
and
你就
defensiveness
觉得
towards him. When you see this
这个
person,
人这个
you
样
just
子，
feel, why
你
is
心
this
中有
person
点
like
不
this?
自在。
You feel a
但是
bit
可以说你
uneasy
之前
inside.
没认识他，
But
你
you
不认识
could
他。
say you didn't
还
know
有一
him
种
before. You
这
didn't know
种感
him.
觉哈，再深挖一
There
下。
is another feeling to
比如说有一
explore
个
more
人
deeply.
在
For
你小时候
example,
曾经打过你，
there's a person
可是你
who
见了
hit
一
you
个
when you were a child.
很像
But
打你的那
but then
个，
when you meet someone
并且是
who
同一个
look
性格，
very
比如说
much
这个
like that
男
person
生打了你，长那个样子。但后来见了一个男生，有
and
点类似于打你的
is the same gender, for example, a boy who hit you look like that. Later, you meet another boy who resembles the one who hit you. You always dislike him. When you get closer, you realize your relationship is still conflictual. not cooperative. Has anyone noticed this phenomenon? It's even have the same name. For example, when you hear a name ending with Hua, like Zhang Su Hua or Li Gui Hua, you might feel uneasy about the name Hua. Whenever you meet someone with that name, you always feel that even if it's just a working relationship that's unclear, things still don't go smoothly. The cooperation between you and them is always awkward. Have you noticed this kind of pattern? Yes, right. But some people like the name as soon as they hear it, because their friends, a very close friend, hear that name. So they like the name immediately upon hearing it, simply because they like the name. So I like this person. So there is this feeling that I dislike the name as soon as I hear it, because someone with that name once deceived me. Yes. Later, when you meet someone who is not that deceiver, but another person with the same name, you still feel a bit repelled. But you will try to befriend them and see how it goes. In the end, it never works out. If it does, it means you have been successfully deceived. The outcome is always negative. Please remember, when I'm talking about this, it's called the way. The way of heaven. This way of heaven relates to what today's lessons will discuss. It is called karma. Karma is divided into many detailed aspects. Everything happens for a reason. Who you marry, what kind of children you have, how many illnesses you have experienced in your life, how much wealth you accumulate, how many true loves you have, whether you have a son and a daughter, or only daughters and no son, and so on. There is always a cause called inevitability. This is called cause and effect. So many people, for example, visit various doctors. They see doctors only after falling ill. But doctors cannot cure them, so they seek treatments everywhere. They even tried methods to recover. Later, some have opportunity to come to our centers and learn from us. Some diseases can indeed be helpful to everyone. Many suffering must happen because we have karma. If you simply practice here, for example, I have had chronic pains for years due to certain important causes. Cause and effect result in chronic back pain. But then I feel no pain. After practicing Bodhi meditations, the pain disappears. But sooner or later, the pain will return and manifest again. It is because of the karmic causes from your past. I sincerely want to ask everyone. We want to become more liberated, truly healthier. What everyone wants is the effect of taking painkillers. You take them, and for 3 days, no pain. After 3 days, the pain returns. It's not a cure, just pain relief. Do you want to take painkillers? Still want to uproot the problems completely? If you want to uproot the problems completely, then please listen to the following story. Be mindful. Alright, the first story I want to share is about being struck by lightning. This happens in July 1987. It was a summer day. The weather was very clear, with not a cloud in the sky. On a highway in Taiwan, a man was driving north. He was driving past a small grove of trees by the roadside. He stopped the car because he needed to use the restroom. Just as he was about to go, the sky, which was clear, suddenly flashed with lightnings, followed by a crack. A thunderbolt struck right above his head, killing him instantly. Now let's talk about who this man was. Why did he suffer such a fate? This man was named Cai Lu Kai, born in Taichung. His father was in the timber business and quite successful. At that time, he even had a factory in Indonesia. The family was well off and quite wealthy, and Cai Lu Kai was the youngest son in the family. He had 4 older sisters. As you can imagine, in Chinese family, a late-born son is cherished. From childhood, his parents treated him like a precious gem. Those 4 sisters weren't like sisters, but more like servants, attending to him constantly. If he wanted stars, they gave him stars. If he wanted the moon, they gave him the moon. When this son grew up after completing his military service, his father entrusted him with the family business. It was expected he would bring honor to the family and expand the business further. But unexpectedly, he was an uneducated and incompetent person. Moreover, his attitude was very arrogant, and his way of doing things was unreasonable. As a result, the family fortunes began to decline. His father watched anxiously and hurried to advise him, saying, "Son, this won't do. You should do this and that. You must not do this and that." The son still wouldn't listen. He said, "Oh, you old man, your old tricks don't work anymore. Listen to me. I know what I'm doing." This is how the father and son clashes. The son became more and more arrogant. In the end, he despised his father's guidance. One day, he told his parents, "Stop talking. Stop bothering me." He kicked the elderly couple out of the mansion, leaving them homeless on the street. The 4 daughters were also unfilial. Not one took in the elderly couple. So the 2 elders had to take shelter in a park pavilion, spending the night there. Then a Taiwanese police officer saw this and thought, this can't be right. He urged them to go home, but they refused. There was no choice but to send them to a Buddhist temple to settle down. The abbot of the temple was very kind. He heard their stories and wondered how such an unfilial child could exist. He arranged for someone to go to their home and brought Chai Lu Kai to the temple. The abbot personally spoke with him, telling the young man that his behavior was wrong. Being unfilial would surely bring retributions. He must believe in cause and effect. Outside, Chai Lu Kai still acted as if he was quite respectable. He bowed and pressed his palms together and said, "All right, master, I will listen to you and be filial to my parents." Then he took his parents home. But once home, his true nature was revealed. "You 2 old immortals are ruining my reputations outside, making everyone know I'm an unfilial son. This time, I won't let you go out. You will stay locked at home." They ended up locked their parents in a small dark room. They suffered humiliations and poor food. They were even scolded just like that. The father became furious. He was truly angry and deeply depressed. Then he cursed them. He said, "You unfilial child, one day heaven will strike you down." He was so angry at his 4 daughters. He said, "You unfilial children, you will all die miserable death and suffer incurable diseases." He laid heavy curse upon them. Then the mother, her mind couldn't take it anymore. She developed dementia and soon passed away. The father, too, one day suddenly had a stroke from anger. He also passed away not long after. After the old couple died, only a few months passed. Chai Lu Kai drove north. He was originally going to attend a wedding, a happy occasion. Unexpectedly, by the age of a small grove, he just wanted to relieve himself. The sky had been cleared without a cloud. Suddenly, a lightning bolt and a thunderclap struck him, dead on the spot. That was his retribution. His several older sisters and their descendants also suffered, as it cursed by their old father. They all met unfortunate ends. Some got cancer, others contracted AIDS, and some even plagued with liver disease. So they lived their lives in poor health. The next generations of children also fared poorly. Within just a few years, the family declined and vanished without a trace. This is the first story I wanted to share with you about an unfilial son struck by lightnings. Yes, this concerns the moral values in the human world and moral cultivations. Filial piety towards parents is the greatest and most fundamental virtue a person must have. It is a basic principle and realms of being humans. Because parents, the process of raising children is extremely hard. If parents neglect you for even one day, especially when you are young, you might die. You could even be killed by a dog, or be kidnapped by child traffickers, fall to death, choked on food. Life is always in a state of danger. So the elders say, only when you raise children do you understand a parent's love. You have to go through the whole process of bearing and raising a child yourself to realize that parents feel the same way about us. But often, many young people growing up do not feel grateful for their parents' kindness. They usually focus on the father's strictness, especially if he scolded or hit them. This is what I call hatred. The mother nagged every day. Hatred. It only leaves behind impressions of resentment or hatred, with little respect or understanding. And a feeling of love like this is about Chai Lu Kai. The male lead here was struck dead by lightnings. This truly happens in Taiwan. I believe some Taiwanese practitioners here have heard this story before. No matter how good you are to others or how well you disguise yourself, if you lose this fundamental respect and gratitude towards your parents, then I believe all your other morals are just pretentious. If you deserve to be struck by lightnings, you will be. It's not because you are good to other friends that you won't be struck or face retributions. That's impossible. This is also taught in the precepts of Buddhism. Those who harm their parents will descend into Avicii hell. Avicii hell has another meaning. It is the most painful hell. It also means a hell without interruptions. Uninterrupted is what defines Avicii. It never stops. It is even described as even if the earth we live on explodes 10 times a day, the hell will not explode and will remain locked there. And the suffering continues every day. The pain is unimaginable. It tortures people. Every field has experts in methods of torture. They study how to make you suffer without dying. There are many such punishments. So you should strive to be a good and kind person. First, learn to be respectful and filial to your parents. To truly learn this, our stories get better and better. These stories happened in 1948 in the village of Tamping, Malaysia. In those days, people generally lived in poverty. There was a farmer called Zhang in the village. He had an orchard at home. He tended on the orchards every day, harvesting fruits and vegetables to sell. One day, old Zhang was busy at the orchards as usual when he suddenly spotted a rather large pangolin. In those times of scarcity, pangolins were considered game to be caught and eaten. So, old Zhang called his 3 sons to help catch the pangolin. The pangolin saw them coming and immediately burrowed into a hole in the mountain. Old Zhang and his 3 sons used various tools to dig and poured water into the hole. But it was all in vain. The pangolin just stayed hidden inside the hole. They were helpless against it. At that time, Lao Zhang's 39-year-old wife was just over 4 months pregnant. Seeing such a commotion, she wanted to help. Though physically limited, she was quick-witted. She came up with a plan and said, Lao Zhang, children, listen to me. Let's stack branches in the hole's entrance. Go and gather some firewood and burn this pangolin. Once the fire burns, it will surely scale it out. If not, smoke will drive it out for sure. Lao Zhang and his sons followed her advice. They lit a fire at the hole and burned for a long time. Still, they couldn't force the pangolin out. In the end, they gave up. They thought the pangolin might have suffocated inside, so the whole family went home. 5 months later, Mrs. Zhang gave birth. She delivered at home. When the baby cried out, everyone assisted was shocked. No one congratulated the family. Instead, they let out cries of alarms. Mrs. Zhang, as a mother, asked to see her child. When she saw her newborn daughter, she screamed and fainted. What kind of baby girl could terrify everyone present so much? It turned out Mrs. Zhang gave birth to a Pangolin girl. This baby's skin and complexions were exactly like a pangolin's. Her body was covered in scales. Her face was pointed. Her mouth was unusually protruding. She has no hair or fur, only a body full of scales. So news of the strange baby spread throughout the village. The villagers heard that the Zhang family had the freak. They came to demand the family hand over the monster. The villagers believed that such an ominous creature born in the village would bring disaster to the entire village and affect everyone. But as parents, Mr. and Mrs. Zhang, thought frightened by their daughter's appearance, could not bear to let the villagers kill her. So they lied to outsiders, saying the monsters had died and couldn't be raised. That was how they sent the villagers away. Just let Mr. and Mrs. Zhang kept the girl. Kept in a secret room at home. She was never allowed to see the daylight. They named their daughter Zhang Shimei because she was the 4th children in the family. Poor Shimei grew up in a sealed room until she was 10. She had not even seen the sky or left the house, only the family knew the secret. When Shimei was 10 years old, old Zhang, a farmer, felt seriously ill. His conditions were severe and he was near death. According to Mrs. Zhang, old Zhang was in great pain in the end, and in his final moments, he looked at Shimei by his bedside. In immense pain, he cried out, "My child, come die with your father. I cannot bear to leave you in this world alone." Old Zhang knew that such a special child would only suffer in this world with no happiness. Therefore, he could not bear to leave his daughter alone to continue suffering in life. In the end, old Zhang passed away with resentment. The young 4th sister did not understand her father's pain. Time passed. From 4th sister birth 1948 to 1982, she was nearly 40 years old. Only after more than 30 years did the villagers learn that the monster from back then had not died. It had been living in old Zhang's home all alone. The villagers gathered again, wanting to see the creatures. But when they saw 4th sister, they found that although she looked strange, she had only been in contact with family since childhood. She had no intention to harm anyone, nor the mindset or ability to do so. So, the villagers gave up and did not demand her executions. This also reflected some kindness among the Malaysian villagers. Now an adult, 4th sister, everyone who saw her was shocked and went home having nightmares. Her appearance was truly terrifying. A pangolin face, completely hairless, covered in scales. She had no eyelid. Her eyes were round like fish eyes with rings around them like iron bands. Her nose bridge was flat, and her lips protruded. Her teeth jutted out like fangs. Overall, she indeed looked somewhat like a pangolin. Later, because the existence of the 4th sister was exposed, her mother simply took her to see a doctor. Many renowned dermatologists treated her, but all the experts reached the same conclusion. There was no cure. What a strange coincidence. During the mother's pregnancy, the father and brothers were hunting pangolins. The mother even suggested burning one alive, and the daughter born later actually looks like a pangolin. This is a true story that happens in Malaysia, the Pangolin girl. This story sounds quite stressful. It's about what you are eating. What kind of animals are you eating? Could you feel something
类
similar
似
to
这样的
this?
感觉。尤其在吃猪肉比较
Especially
多
since most people eat pork.
如果也出
If
现
a
这样
similar
的
phenomenon happens
类似这个现
with
象，
that
那
too,
很麻烦。
that would be
那我
troublesome.
想我们不
We
是那
think
个
we are
动
not
物，
the animal.
我们不了解它。
We don't understand it.
但是不
But
管我们
whether
是
we are
一个
adults or
成年人
children,
还是一个
wouldn't we feel
小孩子，
angry when we are
我们自己
hurt?
被打的时候，我们会不会愤怒？
If we are killed,
如果我们被
do we
杀的时
hold
候
any hatred?
有没有仇恨呢？
What about the poor Zhang Simei?
那这位可怜的张
So
四
her
妹呢，
case is directly related to
正
the
好与
earlier
前面他们
incidents
家
of
发
capturing
生
and killing
去
pangolins
捕
in their
捉
home.
杀害穿山甲这
It
件事
really
有关
makes me reflect deeply on the
我
story.
其实也
For
让
example,
我好
many
好
of
思考
us
了
have
一下
eaten
他的
pork.
故事。比如说，
It
我们
says
很
that
多
you
人常
could
年去吃这个猪
then
肉，
give birth to
那他
piglets.
说你就会生个猪
But
宝宝，
that doesn't seem to be true.
好像说也
So
不
why
是
is this a case?
那为什么这个会是？
This is something we can clearly explain.
这个我们把说不清的，
But it
但是
definitely has
其
some
决定这个
connections
事
to
情
the
有些
matter.
关系的事情，这叫因缘。
This is called karma.
那么它这个是叫直
And
白
this
的
is straightforward.
你看它的形象
Look at the
和
image
几年
And the
前
pangolin
或者几个
killed
月
a
前
few
杀死
years
穿山甲
or months
好
ago.
像有一些这种，
There seem to be
形象上的
some
关联。
kind of symbolic connections.
那么这种关联性不是每一个杀
But
生
this
的人都会
connection
发生
doesn't happen to everyone who takes life.
但是如果从形
However,
象上不会发生。比如说
symbolically,
我
it
我
might
常
not
年吃猪
occur.
肉，甚至我还
For
自己
example,
把猪杀了，
I
还给
eat
动
pork
物
all
吃
years
了，
round, and I
那
even
你的孩
slaughter
子
the
会变
pig
成猪吗？
myself and stew the
这也
meat.
不一定。
Would your child
如果
turn
不变
into
成
a
猪，
pig?
会有仇恨
Not
的话，
necessarily.
所
If
以
they
就
don't turn into a pig, but the
变
pig
成
holds
了
resentment,
你为什么
then it
总是
manifests
喉
as
咙？
why you always have a
所
sore
以有的
throat.
人在一直杀生就是磨脖子
Some
嘛。
people who
磨
keep
脖子
killing are basically
我们
cutting
之前
throats.
在马来西亚
Cutting
看到
throats.
很多故
We
事
were
中
in
就是有
Malaysia
的
before, and many
他在养
stories
养
told
鸡
were
养
like
鸭
this.
到时候他就只
Their
磨脖子
family raised chickens and
哎
ducks,
那么他家人
and
得
then
的
they
病
cut
呢，
their throats.
都是与这个有关系。
So, the
还有什么
illnesses their family
喉
got
癌、
were
食道
all
癌
related to
啊
this.
什么口腔癌，
There are things like throat cancer,
还有发生交
esophagus
通事
cancer,
故
and
导
oral
致的。
cancer.
嗯，
There are
这个
also
很多
traffic
这
accidents
个
causing neck
因果
fractures.
的带来的灾难呢，
So there are
它
many
不是一
such
个单方
cases.
面说你杀了猪你就变成
These
不一定
disasters are brought by
它的
karma.
会让
It's
你
not
痛苦
one-sided.
它痛苦转化
Killing
成
a
不
pig
同的
doesn't
状
mean
态
you become a
比如
pig.
说儿女不争气
Not necessarily.
啊，
It
或者
causes
是
you
你会
suffering.
离婚，
That suffering
或者
transforms into
你
different
会
states.
由富变成
For example,
贫穷
children who
啊
disappoint
等
you,
等各种让
or
你
you
痛
might
苦
get
的事
divorced,
情发生，
or you might
这个
fall
所谓
from
的
wealth into poverty.
也就是对方
Various
的
painful
复仇
things
心
can happen.
不一定都让你变成
This is
他的模
possible.
样，
It's the other
但是一
party's
定会带
desire
来
for revenge.
可能
It
的
doesn't
痛苦，
always make you become like
虽然
them,
心情很沉重，
but it will
但
definitely
是我
bring
还想
possible
听下一个
suffering.
故事。觉得
Though the mood is heavy, I still want to hear the
好，
next
那接
story.
下来这个故
Junzhen.
事呢，名字叫菜中
All
菜
right, the next story is about
是发生在
vegetables
泰国的一个故事。在一个
among
乡村中吧
vegetables. It's a story
有一
that
对夫
happens in
妻，
Thailand
那么
in
还
a
有三
village.
个乖巧
There
的
was a
孩子，
couple
孩
and
子都
three
很小
well-behaved
哈，都是
children.
几岁的年纪。虽然非常
The
贫
children
穷，
were
但是
very
呢还是
young,
很快乐
just
的。
a
他
few
们自
years
己有
old.
自己的家，
Though very
就是一
poor,
个像一个
they were
竹
still
楼这
happy.
样子的哈。
They had their
对
own home,
然后那个
which
时
is
候
like
呢，
bamboo
也
still
没
house.
有自来水，
At
那
that
他们的
time, there
饮
was
用
no
水呢
running
都是从
water.
河边
They
打过
fetched
来的水
drinking
呢，
water
就
from the
放在自
river.
家的3个大水缸里大水缸呢就放在他们这个
It was
竹楼
stored
旁
in 3
边
large jars
然
at
后也
home.
是有
The
这个
jars
有
were
树
placed
有
beside
荫
their
就
bamboo
这样
house.
子就是
The
作为
areas
供
were
水
shaded
的
by
存放的。
trees.
那话说
The
有一天
jars
呢，
were
就
used
突
to
然
store drinking
发
water.
生了火灾
One day,
啊，
a
因为他们
fire
的房子
suddenly
都
broke
是
out.
竹子呀、木头这
Because the
样搭
house
建
was
的嘛，
built on
所以
bamboo
一
and
着火
wood,
就很快
they
就
quickly
燃烧
caught
起来。
fire and
哇，
burned
村
fast.
民们也都
The
纷纷都
villagers
跑
all
过来
rushed
帮
over
助
to help
救
put
火
out the
哈。
fire.
大家就是
In
慌
the
乱之下
chaos,
也忘
they
了说
forgot
旁边
that
有
there
这个
was a
水缸，
water jar
还就是因
nearby.
为附近也有河流，
Also,
就
since
都
there
跑
was
到
a
河流
river
里面
close
去
by,
取水啊，去这样
everyone
灭火。
ran to the river to
然后
fetch
大人们都
water
在
to
忙着
extinguish the fire.
也就忘记了
The
三个
adults
孩
were
子
all
了
busy
哈
putting out the
三个
fire,
孩子
and
自
they
己也
forgot
在
about the 2
也
children.
在寻
The
求
3
这个生
children
物
were
啊
trying to find
那
a way
最
to
大的哥
survive
哥
on their
呢，其
own.
实还挺聪明
The
的，
eldest
拉
brother
着
was
小
quite
弟弟小妹
clever.
妹说：“
He
哎，你看
pulled
我
his
们有
little
3个
brothers
大
and
水缸
sisters aside.
啊，
Look,
水能灭火
we
的，
have 3
我们
big
就
water
掉到
jars
缸
and
里
water
面
can
去，
put out
就可以
fire.
避开危险
If we
了。”
jump into the
啊，
jars,
哥
we
哥
can
就把
avoid
小
the
弟弟放到
danger.
一个缸
So the brother lifted his younger brother onto one jar, covered it with the lid, and then placed his little sister into another jar. And then they covered it with the lid, and he jumped into the third jar himself and covered it with the lid as well. Meanwhile, the adults was frantically trying to put out the fire. After a long time, the fire still wouldn't go out. The house has already collapsed into ruins. By then, it was already dark. No one could tell what was left in the ruins. No one could dig through them anymore. At that moment, the parents suddenly remembered, "Oh no, where are my 3 children? Where are my children?" They searched everywhere, but it was pitch dark. They didn't know and couldn't find them, so they had to wait until the next day. At dawn, the villagers helped them search again. Suddenly, a villager discovered something. Under the ruins of the burned-down house, there seems to be jars. They cleared away the debris on top. Oh, there were 3 large water jars. Then they looked inside. The lid was also burned to a mess. It was a bamboo and wooden lid. Then inside, a child was killed to death. The second jar was also a child killed to death, and the third jar also had a child killed to death. There were 3 children in total. When they hid inside the water jars, the fire wasn't that big yet, but the fire kept growing bigger and bigger. It heated the water inside the jars, making it hotter and hotter. The children had no way to escape and was killed to death in the bed. The parents sat on the ground, heads bowed in despair. They cried out to heavens in vain and to the earth in vain. They said their house was completely gone, but they could rebuild it. However, their 3 lively and lovely children had tragically died before their eyes. How could they go on with life like this? They cried uncontrollably. It was utter despair. Because in Thailand, there's a long-standing Buddhist tradition. The couple said, "Forget it. Our life had no hope left. Let's become monks and go to the temple." The 2 of them walked hand in hand into the temple. Along the way, the father kept saying, "Oh, this is truly retributions, truly retributions. I never expected that karma would catch up to me in this life." And so, he kept muttering this phrase all the way. When they arrived at the temple, he still said the same. The temple abbot then asked him, "Why do you say this is retributions? Do you know the reason behind it?" The father said, "I know. You see, I'm someone who loves cooking and eating. Every spring, I go to the ponds at the ridges between rice fields, the ridges where rice seedlings are planted, to catch the small fish fry. Because the spring fish fries are very tender. After catching them, I bring them home and keep them in clean water to rest. Then I take water spinach, cut it into sections, and cook it together with the fish fries in a pot. The fish fries then feel the water temperature getting hotter and hotter. They all darted into the hollow stems of the water spinach to escape the heat. But the water kept boiling more and more. In the end, the fish inside the vegetables were stewed into a delicious soup. The dish was said to be exceptionally tasty, so he kept at it tirelessly, often catching this small fish fry to make the special dish. Sometime, while fishing along the few ridges, 2 big fishes once jumped and landed on the ridge. They looked at the father with the desperate eyes. Fish can speak, and having come up the water, all they could do was open their mouth wide. It was like a silent protest, a wordless plea, as if saying, "Please spare my babies, please spare my babies." But the father showed no mercy at all, and ended up catching the 2 big fish too. Well, today was quite a fruitful day. Besides the small fish fries, I also brought home 2 big fish. We slaughtered and ate them together. So, looking back, he recalled his tragic fate. His 3 lively and adorable children hid in the water jar, but was killed to death, just like those small fish fry back then. They became his meal. So, the couple told the abbot about the karmic retributions they were experiencing in this life. As for the couple, they spent the rest of their life in the temple, repenting endlessly. All right, thank you, Master.
越听啊，
The more I hear, the
心
more
惊胆战
terrifying
啊
it becomes.
就是无论家里的妈妈
Whether
还是
it's the
餐
mother
馆
at
里的
home
厨师，就想方设
or
法
the
呢
chef in
取
the
悦于
restaurant,
吃饭的人，
they try every way to
希望自
please the
己
diners.
让别人觉得自己很聪明。
They
你
hope
看我
others
做
will
了一
think
个
they are
新的一个
clever.
菜
Look,
啊
I
这
make a
家
new
这个
dish
爸爸
again.
呢，他
This
们在泰国嘛
father's
东南亚
family happened to
所
be
以
in
这
Southeast
个只要有小河的
Thailand.
话，想取
So
到这
as
个
long
小
as
鱼
there's a
还
small
是很
river,
容易的。
catching this
就
small
感觉自己
fish
很
is
聪
quite
明。
easy.
哎，
He
拿
also
水一
feels
煮
very clever.
小鱼就往那个
Look,
小那空心菜的
once
菜
the
杆里
water
那个空心
boils,
里钻，
the small fish swim into the
就
hollow
是这个
stems of
几
the
乎
water
快赶上这
spinach.
个
They
空
crawl
心干了。
inside the hollow
那怎么能
stems.
想出这种馊主意？
He thinks
我
this
觉得在
almost
发明的时候
rivals
也许
a
是个巧合
scientist's
也许
idea.
是观察来的。
How could anyone come up with such a rotten
我
idea?
相信他确实没有想到
I
会
think the
带来这样
inventions
的
might
一
have been a
个
coincidence,
报应。
or perhaps came from observations. I believe he truly did not expect that it would bring such
就让那
consequences.
个罐子里头
Look at
水
how
缸
his 3 children died
东
drowning
南
in
亚
those
很多国
jars.
家
The
在过
water
去
jars
用
in
自然
many
水的
Southeast
时候
Asian
自
countries
然
in the
界的
past,
水，无论雨水、河水
when
还是
using
江水
natural
的时候，
water,
通常就在家里院
just
子里
natural
放几
water,
个水
whether
缸
rainwater, river water, or
水
well
缸多不
water,
多存水嘛。
people usually kept several
想不到
water
有一
jars
天
in their yards.
房子起火
More
了，
jars meant more stored
这个孩子
water.
就死在里面。
Just like that, I never
这种死
expected
亡
that
的这个
one
状
day
态，
the house would
这个
catch
爸爸放
fire.
成这个菜中菜，
The
非常
child
的
died
相
inside.
当啊。
This state of
记得在
death
地藏
is
经
very
中
much
还
like the
讲到，
dish
有
that
一个人
invented
的母亲
the dish within a
也
dish.
是地藏王菩萨的有一个
I
师的名
remembered
字
it was mentioned in
是吧？
Upstart Bodhisattva
贪吃鱼
Sutra.
子，
A person's mother
你看鱼
was
子
also
和
a
小鱼
past
苗
life mother
同样的
of
关系。
Upstart
下
Bodhisattvas,
地狱。
right? She was greedy for fish eggs.
这个故事和佛讲的这
You
个
see,
故事
fish
非
eggs
常的
and
类似。
fry have the same
其
relationships,
实大家
leading to
都
hell.
不会觉
These
得
stories and the one
有
told
一
by
种概
Buddha
念，
are very
一个
similar.
说法吧，叫做
Actually,
万物有灵。
most people don't realize there is a
万物有灵。
concept, a certain
当
teaching
我们上一
behind
个
this.
小鱼子到小鱼苗，或者一个小小的
It
鸽
is called
鸽子
all
蛋，
things have spirits.
哎
When we
就
harm a small fish eggs or
但是
fish
人类
fries
就
or
是
even a tiny
告
pigeon
诉自己
eggs,
我是杂食动
as
物，
humans, we tell
我
ourselves
这
we are
个
omnivores.
人类的这
This
种
human
状
conditions
态就
means
是什么都
eating
吃，
everything.
把这
We
个状
take
态
this to
发
an
挥到非
extreme,
常就是不
an
得了的状态
extraordinary
了。
level.
要从母亲养孩
From
子
a
来
mother's
说，这个不是过
perspective
的。
in raising children,
但要说什么
this
都
is
吃的
not a
话，
fault.
也是
But when
跟
we say eat
这
everything,
个年代和
it also
经济
depends
状
on the
态有
era
关。
and economic
有些人的
conditions,
年景
right?
呢很差，
For example,
农民
when
没
the
有收
harvest
成，
is
没有
poor,
米吃了，
farmers
要
have
饿
no
死了。
crops, no rice to
那
eat,
个时候就是
and
抓住什么就
face
吃什么，这个
starvations.
还叫有情可原。
Back then, people ate
那
whatever
在
they
当
could
今的
catch.
社会，
That
像
was still
1990年，
understandable.
最
In
最
today's
早的开始
society,
弘法就在
like the
广东的
1990s,
广州
I
市
started spreading the Dharma in Guangzhou,
那里就是
Guangdong
广
Province,
州呢，可
China.
能至少有1000多万
Guangzhou
人，
has a population of
在
at
处
least
处都是
10
餐馆。
million.
有
Restaurants are
很多餐馆
everywhere.
为了吸引客人，就是
Many restaurants try to
弄
attract
得
customers by
什么都
offering
有，就像一个
everything
野生动物园
imaginable.
一样。
It's like a wild
还
animal
有孔
park.
雀，也在里也是一
There are
个
even
顺汤
peacocks
吃肉的一个
inside.
食物。
They are used in stews and meat
那里
dishes.
我也见过，好像有穿山甲，
I also saw what
好
seems to be
像
pangolins
平
there.
时因为当今呢，我们
Usually,
活在城市里，很少
Since we
见
live
到
in
的一些
cities
南方的小
nowadays,
动物。
we rarely see some of these
有
more
很多我之前
southern
没有见过，
animals. There are
有很
many
多
kinds I've never seen
也
before.
奇怪了，它也
This
不
is
缺
strange.
米
It's
啊
not
肉的，它
lacking
不
rice
缺
or
这个
meat.
食物。
It has
但
enough
是很
food.
多人一说哇，今天
But
哪
when
里有
many
种
people hear,
从来没
wow,
见过的一种
today
野
there's
味，
a kind of
赶快
wild
去吃。
games never seen
人这
before,
一生哈，
they rush to
做
eat
人
it.
做事
In
就是这
life,
样，有所为有所不
being
为。
a person and doing things is
这
about
是什么
knowing
意
what
思
to
呢？
do and what
就有
not to
些事
do.
可以做，有些事
What
不
does it
可以
mean?
做。
It means some
也
things
就
are
是有一
acceptable,
个基
some
本
are
的叫
not.
做
There
人
is
对
a
社会
basic
当中有一
principle.
种规范性，
People must follow certain social norms.
这些规范不遵
If
从，
these norms
这
are
就就来
ignored,
了。
right and
还
wrong
有很多
arise.
动物是很
Many
具有灵
animals
性
are very spiritual.
长
long-lived ones like turtles and fish. They have a spirit. If a spiritual animal meets a very spiritual being, one that had lived over hundreds or even several hundred years, being told to kill and eat it can easily cause problems. Today, I don't want you to feel afraid after eating it. This is definitely not my intention. But your fear is your own feeling. I feel scared just listening, and I've never eaten it. So what I said earlier is, if at that time society had no food to eat and a great disaster of famine struck the world, it would be understandable to eat anything. But when you have rice and noodles to eat, if you just want to satisfy your cravings and eat everything, these animals have nothing to do with your life or the nutrition your body needs, and you have no relations to your health. The rarer the animals, the more its DNA are something you cannot resist. That explains it, right? Malaysia is a tropical region, and it's all kinds of animals. I saw it myself when I was on the way to Genting. I haven't been to Genting Casino, but halfway there is a place called they call it Cameron Highlands. Yes, I went there. On the way, I saw a lizard. The lizard was longer than the pig, at least 2 meters long, with a waist as thick as a bucket. It was actually very fierce, like the dragons in ancient legends. Crossing the street, feeling both excited and happy, also a sense of fear, you take the knife and chop it up, then stew and eat it. What a pity! Did it even harm you? No, it didn't. It has nothing to do with your life. Why kill it? Can you really eat it? Can you truly bear it? It's not about digestion. Can you truly bear it? Can its energy bring you health? You have never thought about that, right? From now on, remember this. Just eating a piece of bamboo shoots. Eat a bamboo shoots like a panda. You have to think, even when eating a mooncake. Can I really digest this kind of things? You must consider this. If you don't, problems will easily arise. You should hold respectful heart towards the world. There are still good stories. The world is full of suffering. This is because human nature contains much evil. There is a heartbreaking pain in life. It is when families are torn apart and destroyed. When traffickers sell young children from their homes, this is a living hell on earth. This agony, worse than death, breaks parents' heart. The children also endure endless torment. So we all hate human traffickers with clenched teeth. Next, I will tell a story about human traffickers. Their story ends in justice. It takes place in Sichuan province, China, around 1986 to 1992. At that time, traffickers were especially rampant. Among them was a woman named Peng Hongju. She and her husband organized a human trafficking criminal gang. From 1986 to 1992, nearly 6 to 7 years, their gangs trafficked more than 80 boys and girls. They destroyed 85 families. In addition, they trafficked over a dozen women. Later, the public security police cracked down on the gang, arresting them all. They captured 44 criminals, led by Peng Hongju. This was a gratifying outcome. But what troubled the detective captain was that Peng Hongju herself escaped during the operations. Though a woman, Peng Hongju was extremely bold in crime. She personally trafficked over a dozen children. She even trafficked a pregnant woman. This is an atrocious crime. The pregnant woman who should have been brought new hopes to her family was sold by her. This shows how ruthless this woman was. She escaped because she fled amidst the chaos during the arrest. She took advantage of the confusion to escape. And in 1980s China, no big data, no network systems, no widespread surveillance cameras either. The police didn't even have a single photo of her. So when she escaped, the detectives couldn't accurately describe her appearance. There was no way to track her escape route. They didn't know where she had fled. It was like finding a needle in a haystack. But the detectives knew Peng Hongqi was extremely dangerous. She was utterly ruthless. If she remained free, she might continue her crimes and keep trafficking children. Therefore, the detective made a firm decision. They must capture her and bring her to justice. Since 1993, they would stalk her at her home every Spring Festival. Why choose Spring Festival? Because Peng Hongqi herself had 3 children, 3 girls. Her youngest was only a year and a half old. The police suspected that as a mother, she might miss her daughter and return home to visit during the Spring Festival. This was ironic. She saw other people's children but cared for her own daughters. For over 10 years, the police stalked out her home every Spring Festival. But they never caught her. Still, they never gave up. Their perseverance was truly admirable. Until 11 years later, the detective captain received a lead on Peng Hongqi from another case. He was glad that finally there was a chance to capture this wicked woman. So, he led the detectives immediately to a remote and improvised village in Shanxi, Douyin village. Peng Hongqi was finally arrested and brought to justice. So the question arises, China is so vast. Why did Peng Hongqi, a Sichuan native, flee to Shanxi? And how was she discovered? The moment the handcuffs clicked on her wrist, Peng Hongqi exhaled deeply and sighed softly, "I'm finally freed." This puzzled the police. During the subsequent interrogations, her story of escape was unveiled. It turned out that she was very cunning when she fled. She escaped directly from Sichuan to hide in Inner Mongolia. That's why the police couldn't find her for so long. Years later, she was indeed homesick, missing her 3 daughters. This maternal instinct made it impossible for her to let go. She thought after all these years, the heat had passed, and people might have forgotten her. So she decided to risk sneaking back home and boarded a train. At that time, China Railways was not as developed as they are now. Traveling from Inner Mongolia to Sichuan required multiple transfer. On the train, she met someone claiming to be a fellow Sichuan native. They had a pleasant conversation. She, of course, did not reveal her true identity. She only said she wanted to go home to see her daughter. What she did not expect was that seemingly warm-hearted fellow from Sichuan was also a human trafficker. 2 traffickers met on the train, each with their own agenda. During the transfer, Peng Hongqi was sold by this warm-hearted Sichuan native for 3,500 yuan to a shepherd in Shanxi. What an irony and karmic retributions. The trafficker, Peng Hongqi, was herself caught by another trafficker. She was sold to Shanxi, to the most remote and poorest Douyin village, becoming the wife of an old shepherd. During interrogations, police learned that in those 11 years, she had only bathed 3 times in total. She never had a decent meal. Every day, she just worked at home. If things went wrong, the old shepherd would whip her. She had caused so many children and women to suffer poverty, beatings, and humiliations. Now all that pain had returned to her, doubled. And when she was arrested, she has already suffered a stroke and was paralyzed on one side. The old man never took her to see a doctor. Only after her arrest did the police provide her with some treatment. But she was no longer able to move normally. After the chief of the criminal investigation team took her back to Sichuan, even though 11 years had passed, the trauma she caused locally brought back then remained unchanged. When the news broke, the streets emptied. Everyone wanted to go out and see her, the woman full of evil deeds. They spat on her, even wishing to beat her up. In the end, she was sentenced to death, and thousands applauded. Before the executions, she asked to see her 3 children. parents. But her daughters and elderly father all refused to see her. She caused so many parents to be separated from their children. Now she herself will never see her most beloved children again. This story tells us that all the suffering in the world truly stems from the evils in human hearts. The evil deeds of Peng Hongqi and her husband brought so much pain to the world. Eventually, she was captured and brought to justice, and she was sold by human traffickers. Having endured all the pain, this can be called a truly satisfying punishment. This is the story of the human traffickers Peng Hongqi. So the important thing is both the good and the bad have their own cause and effect relationship. Where there's a cause, there's effect. Sikamoni Buddha give us a way out, letting us both believe in fate and showing us a path for transformation. Fate can be changed. We must realize that now I want to leave suffering behind. I want liberations, whether my mind, life, family, children, or marriage. If suffering arises in any of these areas, I want to change. That means doing good. Do good deeds. Be a compassionate and kind person. The 4 cases mentioned earlier are proof of this. These things definitely happened. The first was the unfilial son. The last was the woman who trafficked people, causing her own family to be destroyed. Just a single con artist ended up capsizing in the gutter. She only knew how to deceive others and never expected to meet another con artist. She herself encountered a con artist. It really made her get betrayed. She never even dreamed of this. This is also a cause and effect, to let her experience what it's like after being sold as a trafficked person, living a life worse than that of animals. In Vancouver, Canada, this happens between 20 years ago. At that time, very few people were spreading the Dharma, and it was still early days. I knew someone who had studied with me in China before. At that time, they were relatively young, about the same age as me. They often nagged me, saying they wanted to buy a house. They had saved enough money. They looked around for 3 years, then 5 years, but they couldn't find a house they were satisfied with. They weren't very picky, and their basic requirements weren't high. They viewed at least 200 houses, but found issues with all of them and couldn't buy any. Once, the young couple asked me, "Master, please take a look. I'm not saying I don't spend money, I do. My requirements aren't high, so why can't I find a house that satisfies me? Help me take a look." He just let me look. So I looked. I say about that, I told the 2 of them. I couldn't tell whose fault it was at that time. I asked if either of you were involved, because I saw a scene where he liked to do certain things. For example, beehives. First, destroying beehives. Second, messing with ant nests. When dealing with beehives, I don't know if he burned them or what. For ant nests, he poured boiling water and sulfuric acid. He felt like he was conducting a scientific experiment. Add a bit more vinegar, some soy sauce, a little chili, and some pepper and so on. He felt a great sense of accomplishment. Unexpectedly, so many ants crawled out from the inside, leaving a large group of ants homeless, forcing the bees to repeatedly leave their hives, making them homeless. I asked the 2 of them, as his wife, "Since you couldn't buy the house, were you affected by this?" Her husband said, "Since the master noticed it, she initially opposed it, but later helped me with it. He specialized in destroying beehives. He didn't do it for money, just bad habits. Wherever he went, he looked for ant nests. He searched everywhere, then looked for hot water or something. He tried every way to cause destruction. Was it fun? Later, he ran to repent. His repentance to buy a house was more sincere. Eventually, he managed to buy one. but we have harmed so many animals and insects, without whom these problems will still happen. What problem? I asked how he destroyed the beehives. He said he set them on fire. I told him to be careful about fire in their home. 7 years later, he bought a house. In the 3rd year of living there, his house caught fire. It was so hard to endure again. Fortunately, in Vancouver, home buyers always have insurance. The insurance company compensated him. After living there for a few months, about half a year, there was a leak. When he went to work, it was a 2-story small house. A burst drained pipes from the master bedrooms upstairs poured sewage into the first floor rooms. It was all dirty waters and feces. Just to give you an idea, it's like when you try every method to pour water on an ant nest. He said, "Why am I so unlucky?" I said, "This is the only time. How many ant nests have you destroyed? Why are you so unlucky? When you two talk to me, you sound like Buddhists. But when you act, you're like demons. This is punishment." Then he argued, "My master never taught me that. How would I know not to harm these little insects?" Right? We don't spend every day together. How would I know you went and did this? Who told you to do it? They both said in unison it was just for fun. But your immoral behaviors requires deep repentance. If you don't repent, karmic retributions will follow. It could lead to the destructions of your family. So when we sometimes do something and even think we benefit from it, we often try to justify it by saying, "It's okay if others lose out, as long as I gained." So we need to seriously reflect that pangolin and many other animals you don't eat, do you really lack that meat? Do you lack its nutrients? Does the pangolins provide you with any nutrition? Do you understand? Don't you? Right? It has nothing to do with nutrition. It's just that today I saw you, I felt like I should kill you. If that's the case, let's open our mind and think the other way around. If you were that pangolin, could you forgive him? No, you wouldn't. So many of our actions are actually meant to hurt others on purpose. I just watch you suffer. Watching you in pain makes me happy. I see bees unable to find their home, and I'm happy. I see ants crawling around aimlessly, and I'm annoyed. When they can't find their nest and ants can't do anything about you, you feel happy. I also saw an online video someone found a large ant nest, melted aluminium OLED, and pour it inside. They make an artwork out of it. What kind of artwork? That large ant nest. After they took their things out, inside were many fork-like objects. He thought, "I'll wash it and put it back." No one knew what it was. Actually, it was melted down, aluminium and lead, among others. They poured it into a large ant nest. Not only did tens of thousands of ants die, they also make an art piece from it. So, do you think there's a cause and effect here? It's just about whether we understand how cause and effects happened. You destroyed the ant nest, killing all the ants. What will happen to you afterwards? Maybe you don't even know. Could you go insane 3 years later? No one knows. Why do someone suddenly go mad for no reason? Why do someone suddenly jump off buildings? There are also incredibly clever people who fall into scammers' traps. They don't even offer to the gods they believe in. Yet no one can produce their money, right? and they are very smart. But within 5 days, all their savings are scammed away. It is not that they lack intelligence. It's karma. Wanting to earn money to buy a house is not a sin, you know. For example, you work very hard. Some people work 2 or 3 jobs. After saving for 20 years, you said, I'll buy a house. But before you buy it, a scammer tricked you out of all your savings. Are you really that easy to fool? Why do your guard drop at the moment? It is not that the deceiver is too clever. It's the manifestations of karma. Have you all heard of a phenomenon called ghosts hitting the wall? The term sounds a bit scary. What kind of phenomena is ghosts hitting the wall? Several people have told me about it. It can happen to any of us. When you go to a place you are not familiar with, whether walking or driving, you try every possible way, especially at night. During the night, you leave marks there. The house numbers are very clear, and nowadays there's even GPS navigating, right? It's like being stuck in a ghostly maze. You can wander within a single block for 4 hours and still not find a way out. But in reality, it's all within a 2 kilometers radius, constantly wandering, unable to find an exit. Why is it called being struck by a ghostly maze? Because you can't see the way out. It's as if a ghost blocked the original path, like walls and houses acting as obstacles, making the exit invisible to you. That's called being struck by a ghostly maze. Many have experienced it. Once this kind of situation arises, it causes intense pain and great harm. The reason it happens is definitely because of the harm you originally caused others. You killed an entire nest of ants. Now, some fellow practitioners present might think, ants are so small, yet their revenge is so strong. The Buddha said all beings are equal. Killing 10,000 ants is like killing 10,000 people. You can understand it this way. Aren't all beings equal? Isn't the same from gender equality to equality of all beings? In an instant, you wiped out an entire ant nest. So when this karmic cause and effects manifest, the wrong you did results in a retaliatory consequence. You can't avoid it. Also, when I guide them, after I show them what to do, I tell them to quickly do this merits or that merits. They ask, why? Why? Especially, why do I have to spend money? I say, it's because of your past karma. They ask, how do you know I have past karma? Usually, doubts arise here. It's a matter of belief or disbelief. When I say it, the person involved doesn't know they have these problems. If you ask me, I tell you what I see. I can't just make things up. When people ask a way out many times, I can't see a way out. When they ask me, I say disaster lies ahead. When asked about way out, I even tried every means to find solutions. Finally, I find a way out. I tell them to do certain things to resolve their disaster problems. Many people become doubtful. If they lack faith, they think the master is deceiving them. If that were true, the master would be making lots of money. So if we take that money, I guess I'm taking your money. Am I also taking on the disaster? Have you thought about that? Who would dare to do that, right? You can't do that. It's like some monks say they can help souls move on, but the souls can't be freed. When they close their eyes, they see ghosts haunting them every day. Would you dare provoke such a disaster? You can't. Who would dare? Unless you know nothing, and after all that, you end up mentally ill. Some even jump into rivers or wells to die. So you must speak truthfully. Then after we guide, some people will trust the master. When you guide me, I quickly follow. That's fine. Some say to light lamps, but it costs $1,000. I can't do that. It's so expensive. Spending $1,500 is too much. At the simplest, 3 incense sticks cost only a few cents, at most 30 cents. Like them there, hoping to guarantee my child get into college, hoping my wife cancer is cured, hoping I find the best jobs and earn $100,000 a year. Can 3 incense sticks solve these problems? Especially when there is a significant karma involved, 3 incense sticks. Even Buddhas can help you. So sometimes we have no way out. Other times we see and find different paths. Sometimes we just can't save them. They don't believe. We don't ask everyone to believe. What I share are stories and lessons. The first 4 stories really happens. They are stories from the past few decades, like the last traffickers who was executed just last year. You can look up online, executed last year. It's a true story. There is a saying that sounds like a joke. If one day this disaster is about to happen and you are sitting in a car about to crash, what would you do? Usually, you would chant a Buddha's name, or you might be startled, your mind going blank. You might not even be able to chant. If you're a bit sharper, you can chant. But sometimes chanting won't save you. For example, if you have taken too many lives and some of those lives weren't taken this lifetime but in past lives, or even if you haven't taken many lives, if you have been unfilial to your parents, heavens will come to claim you. Reciting a Buddha's name in the last moment is useless. When death is near, it's too late. It's like stage 4 cancer. Seeking help from any famous master, it's useless. But stage 4, cancer has spread throughout the body. You can only wait to pass away. Nothing can be done. But people, for example, if you have foresight and see that someone is about to face a disaster, the person themselves is unaware of it because they don't know, they don't care. So I tell everyone, including many senior practitioners, they understand this truth. Do not commit evil. Practice regularly. Recite Buddha's name and do good deeds. You want to be reborn in the future. If it is the highest state in Buddhist faith, being reborn in the Buddha's realms, then you also need merits and less negative karma. For example, reborn in the Western Pure Lands allows carrying sins and karma. But if karma is too heavy, you cannot go. You must accumulate more merits. Your karma must be less. Your sins fewer. Sins must be few and merits abundance. When you're being guided upwards, you will be taken instantly. That's why many elders pass away peacefully. They and their families see the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas guiding them. This is for those who seek rebirth in the Pure Land. You also need to cultivate your mind and practice, accumulating merits. It's best to repay your karma as much as possible. Having more merits is always better than having too much sin. Those who hasn't reached that age yet, I also wish for everything to be auspicious for myself and my family. I also hope that everyone would think carefully. Today, we are sharing this story with you. Harm is whether or not you have done it. If there is, would they forgive you? All right, that concludes today's lessons. Thank you all.
相遇，小小的红点滴，人生变得神奇。我智慧了，我宽容了，我慈悲了，我自在了。因为有了你，生命变得更坚定，不要忧虑。因为有了你，日子不再有哭泣，不再有恐惧。我快乐了，我健康了，我幸福了，我美丽了。